Welcome to Southern Gospel News Podcast, the audible and social media voice of Southern gospel music. Sit back and relax for the next half hour and learn about Southern gospel music from behind the scenes, right here on SGNP. Now, here's your host, Darren Sutherland.
And welcome back once again to Southern Gospel News Podcast. Aaron Sutherland and my co-host from up there in Sevierville, Tennessee, where the wind is blowing rapidly today because he's going in and out on the Skype line. Arthur Rice. Arthur, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, doing great. Doing awesome.
Hey.
How's everything your way?
You know what? It's good. And, hey, it's Tuesday when we're recording this show. And I know you have some dear friends in Nashville, and I have some dear friends in Nashville. And the tornadoes that span from northern Nashville over to Cookeville last night, we need to remember those fine folks in prayer. I think 19, if they've found passed away so far.
Yeah,
and,
that's awful.
Let's lift those folks up in prayer and remember that. But, man, you were gone last week, final week of the tour for the Kingdom Airs. Now you're back toward Dollywood coming up in March, and How
finished up this weekend? Yeah, had a great tour. It was great winter. And
where you headed this weekend?
We're off, and actually taking a few days, and wife and I are just relaxing. And
y'all not going to Florida? You're not going to the beach?
Well, actually, I am at the beach.
You are
so.
At the beach. So
I'm at the driving range, actually,
you're
right now.
in Sevierville. You're down at the beach.
No.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That might be the Skype problem today. You're sitting there looking at the ocean. Meanwhile, we're up here in the rain, and, hey, and it is what it is. I'm going to Florida in a couple of weeks. But we're going to talk to somebody today who's been to Florida, who's been on a cruise, and who's been through the same similar surgery I went through in July. Jason Clark of the Nelons is going to be with us, Arthur, and he's been through.
Glad to have him, man. I tell you, he's been through it here lately.
He has been through it, but he's going to share with us a little bit today. And, you know, as we mentioned, Jason going through his heart surgery, let's pray for Reuben Bean, because Reuben Bean of the McCameys went through heart surgery yesterday. I mean,
that's right.
It's Heart Surgery Tuesday on SGNP. I mean, you know, It's amazing. Yeah. I've been through it. Arthur, I hope you never have to go through it, man.
Me too.
Hey, it ain't fun. It ain't fun. But, hey, just want to remind you folks before we get on with Jason, if you want to check us out, 16,000 plus of your favorite friends have keyed in to Southern Gospel News Podcast on Facebook. You'll see some fun stuff. You'll see some information about gospel music. But overall, it's two Southern guys talking about the culture we live in and what's going on and how we can just make everybody love Jesus a little bit more. You can always go to our website, listen to former shows, prior shows at southerngospelnewspodcast.com. Got some great partnerships coming up down the way that people are going to be excited about, Arthur, that I'll let you in on. And folks, get ready in the next couple of weeks for the Blessing Box. And Arthur and I have talked about this, and but we'll just leave it at that, the Blessing Box. Is that a good thing to leave that, Arthur?
That sounds good.
We'll just leave it at that, and the SGP Blessing Box is coming, but you'll hear more about that in coming weeks. We're going to take a break. We're going to hear one from the Nelons, and we're going to come back with Jason Clark on SGNP.
Needs a drink just to help him survive. I need you, Lord, like a fire in the winter makes a little cold child come alive. I need you, Lord, when I'm tired of the struggle and it's too tough to walk all alone. 'Cause I just can't make it by myself. I just can't make it by myself. No, I just can't make it by myself. It must take a lot just to get my attention. I refuse to say I was wrong.
Everything I touched fell apart until it was gone.
I was sitting in the rubble and I came to my senses, and a voice, a child, let me help.
I said, please do, 'cause I just can't make it by myself. I need you, Lord, like a man in the desert needs a drink just to help him survive. I need you, Lord, like a fire in the winter makes a little cold child come alive. I need you, Lord, when I'm tired of the struggle and it's too tough to walk all alone. 'Cause I just
a man's gotta do.
But he doesn't have to do it alone.
Well, I did it my way, let me tell you that's a dead-end street.
I thought it was tough.
Till the going got rough, and I thought I lost everything.
I admit it, Lord, all I got myself is I need you, Lord, like a man in the desert needs a drink just to help him survive. I need you, Lord, like a fire in the winter makes a little cold child come alive. I need you, Lord, when I'm tired of the struggle and it's too tired to walk all alone. 'Cause I just can't make it by myself, by myself. I just can't make it by myself. No, I just can't make it by myself, by myself. I need you, Lord, like a man in the desert needs a drink just to help him survive. I need you, Lord, like a fire in the winter makes a little cold child come alive. I need you, Lord, when I'm tired of the struggle and it's too tired to walk all alone. 'Cause I just can't make it by myself, by myself. I just can't make it by myself. No, no, I just can't make it by myself. No, no. I just can't make it by myself.
And welcome back to SGNP. Darren Sutherland and my co-host, Southern Gospel Music Association President Arthur Rice and lead singer of the Kingdom Heirs, Arthur Rice. Why did I say it like that, Arthur? Why didn't I just say SGMA President and Kingdom Heirs lead singer Arthur Rice instead of going through doubling things and mentioning your name?
Hey,
Doubling.
just say hello. Just say hey. Hey, you.
Hey, there
I'm
we
good with
go.
that.
There we go. Just that's what I need to say. And hey, you know what, Arthur? It's Super Tuesday, and there's free Kentucky Fried Chicken all across America. You know why?
Yes.
Because
Why's that?
Bernie Sanders to me looks just like Colonel Sanders. So if it's going to make everything else free, we might as well get free chicken today. What do you think? Well, I lost 10 listeners right there talking about politics. Oh, that's sad. Hey, on the line with us today is my good friend. He lives not too far from me, and in West Georgia. He is now a farmer, Arthur, and he's a member.
Yeah.
He's a member of the Zipper Club. Jason Clark of the Nelons. Jason, how you doing, buddy?
Gentlemen, I am doing good, and it's so good to hear your voices on the line. And I would like some of that free chicken. If he's passing it out, I'll take it. So just let me know where to sign up, okay?
That's right.
Does he not look like Colonel Sanders to y'all just a little bit?
You know, I mean,
looks
if he loses his run, if he loses this presidential bid, he could go and apply for those commercials. I bet that's paying well. You know, do those KFC commercials.
He looks like the old guy on the Muppet Show.
He does.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. That is actually pretty good.
My good friend Brian Sanders, who used to write for the Singing News, and Arthur, he's actually going to be on with us in a couple of weeks, and he's the president of Positive Alternative Radio, which is head of Joy FM and that sort of thing. Put a Facebook post out yesterday, and he said one of these things is not like the other, you know, like the old little rhyme. And he put a picture of himself, Brian Sanders, Bernie Sanders, Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, and one other Sanders. So anyway, we're talking about Bernie. Jason, how you know what? People don't want to hear about Bernie Sanders. They want to hear about Jason Clark and your health.
Yes.
And, man, you're back on the road. You just went on a cruise. You just went to Disney World, and this is all in about 2 months since your open heart surgery. If folks don't know it, you went through open heart surgery, what, December 28th, 27th? Something like that?
Today, as we're doing this interview, is 9 weeks ago. I was under the knife, as they say, you know, so It's unbelievable. I cannot believe that.
Wow.
But yeah, this past weekend was my first week, back on the road and trying to, get back into my schedule and things like that. But I honestly, I can't believe how quickly I've been able to just kind of, heal. And it's still, I still got a ways ahead of me as far as getting my cardio and all that kind of stuff built back. But honestly, I feel great. I feel tremendous, so I'm really grateful for the Lord and thousands of people praying and all that kind of thing. So absolutely.
Wow. It's great that when we go through those situations, so many times, we especially I think in this business, we feel so separated from people. We see them every night, that sort of thing on the road, or when, they come to see us, that sort of thing. But then, we leave but when we go through things like this and we get the response from people that have been praying for us and just the messages and boy, it's so encouraging, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. When I came home after I was in the hospital for 7 days, and then I came home, and I think it was Christmas Eve, and the girls, they actually had to fly out Christmas night. They were playing a couple shows down in Grand Cayman. So I was here. My mom, who's a nurse, she came here to kind of just kind of help me get back to health. And so our secretary printed out every email, and then of course cards began to come into our office. People encouraged me, and there was over 2,000 emails and over 500 cards that people had sent, and I read every single one. And I'm telling you, every single person that would write a verse or something that encouraged me, it literally, and I'm not just saying this, it meant something to me at that time, because those first 2 weeks after this kind of surgery is very difficult, not just physically, but it's very difficult emotionally. And every one of those cards and emails greatly encouraged me. And I responded to every one of them. I had nothing but time sitting here. And so I wrote thank you cards and replied to it. I think I hit everybody. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but I tried. But I think I responded to everybody.
That's awesome.
Jason, let me ask you this, because, I went through the similar surgery in July. And it's funny, my mom came over and helped me and sat with me. And did you find yourself, and this is kind of weird, but it's true, I found myself growing closer to my mom as she helped me through this difficult time. And before my mom came over, I was like, why's my mom coming? She got better things to do. She's in her 70s. Yeah. She don't need to deal with me. She needs to take care of herself. But once she came and we sat there and we talked, and your mom fixed you something to drink or fixed you something to eat or helped you with a pillow, man, it was like you were a little 8-year-old boy again, and you realized how much you needed your mom. Did you feel that way, or did that come up in your thought process?
Well, there's a lot of that. My mom, she's a nurse, but she's also the nurturing type anyway, and so she likes that. That's her spiritual gift. She loves serving people. And so when she had the opportunity, because we knew that the girls' schedule, we're not going to allow Kelly to be here all the time. So she flew down and stayed with me for about 3 weeks. But not only that, guys, she's been nursing my dad, who's right now in renal failure, and he has to do 15 hours a day of dialysis, and we're waiting for a kidney transplant. So she's not only was taking care of my dad, she's taking care of me. She had her hands full, I promise you, but she was tremendous, and it's just really her gift, to do that kind of thing. And she loved it. She loved every minute of it. And so I'm very, very grateful. I couldn't have made it without that support, obviously. And so, you're right. It was kind of like she just kicked into gear like, I was 40 years ago when I was living at home or something, know.
Jason,
you're never too old for your mama to love on you.
That's true.
Never too old, my friend. You're right, sir.
You're exactly right. You know what, Arthur, my mama gave you a compliment the other day. She listened to our podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago where I started grilling you about the Southern Gospel Music Hall of Fame. You remember that? She says, you're bullying that man. You shouldn't do that. You should be nicer to him. So anyway, that's my mom's always telling me, you need to be nicer to folks. Jason, give us the a lot of folks are just tuning in. Maybe this is the first time you've ever heard Jason talk about his open heart surgery, but give us the Reader's Digest version, because you're a young guy. I mean, you're younger than I am. Give the folks a little background of what happened and why you had to have the surgery to begin with.
Well, it is an amazing story, and I really believe that it was ordained of God. I really do believe that. I didn't have a bypass or anything like that. What I had was rare, even for heart patients. It was called a myocardial bridge. I was born with this birth defect. I didn't realize that up until a few years ago. I'll give you the bullet points on this, but Gloria Gaither wrote a story in the Homecoming magazine a few years back about a song that her and Bill and Larry Gatler had written for us called "Excuse Me, Are You Jesus?" And we did a video with that song, and that video that particular year won the People's Choice Telly Award. And so they were playing that on television one night on their television app, CBS. Well, this cardiologist in Chicago was watching, and he saw this video. Well, this cardiologist was a lifelong atheist. And that video and the story of that song really moved him, and it caused him to have a lot of thoughts and questions and things like this. Weeks passed by, and he's still thinking about this. And he decides to go to a church and say, I see this church. I pass by every night when I'm going home from work, and they're having Tuesday night Bible studies. I'm going to go in there. Well, he goes in there to this Tuesday night Bible study, and there's about 20 people in the room. They're really nice. They have no idea who he is. And after the Bible study, they said, "Hey, we're so glad you're here. And as an outreach, our church, we host gospel concerts, and we'd love to have you come in, and here's 2 free tickets. We got this family from Atlanta, Georgia coming this week." Well, we go there, we do the concert, and at the end of the concert, the lights go black, and this video begins to play, and we sing the song. And he sees, once again, this video that he had seen weeks ago that had led him to this church Bible study. We left that Saturday night, had no idea that this atheist cardiologist was sitting on the back row. The next morning, Sunday morning, he decides to go back to that church. And at the invitation, not even realizing what all of that was about, he knew he needed something. And the pastor said, "If you want to get to know God, why don't you just come on down here?" And he went down there and he gave his life to Jesus. Now, he'd never been in church in his life, and here he's been 3 times in 1 week, Well, all of this passed by, and we still had never met. And so I began to have chest pains about 6 months later, and I called my friend, who's also a good friend of Arthur, Mike Wheeler. And I said, "Hey, I want to make sure my insurance is all good, and I'm having some chest pains. I want to make sure we're going in." He says, "Hey, I'm on this cruise with this new friend of mine. He's also a cardiologist. He just received Christ." He said, let me put you on the phone with him. So I got on the phone with this cardiologist. He said, "I can't treat you on the phone, but if you'll fly to Chicago, I'll take care of you on Monday morning. We'll check you out." So I flew to Chicago, walk in this man's office, and he's like, "Oh, my goodness." He goes, "You're the guy that sings, 'Excuse Me, Are You Jesus?'" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're not going to believe what God has done in my life." And he began to tell me this amazing story. Well, that afternoon, we realized that I've got they did an angioplasty, and so they put me, asleep for that procedure to check out my heart. And we discovered that I had this cardio bridge. I wake up from that procedure, and I hear this amazing, beautiful, powerful, booming voice praying over me with a circle of nurses around my bed. And it's this once atheist cardiologist leading them in prayer. And now he's a dear friend of mine. Years later, his name is Dr. Dan, and he's written a book, and now he's got his master's degree in apologetics. And I asked him last time I saw him at Christmas, I said, "Why in the world did you go get another degree?" And he said, "Well, Jason," he said, "I've got to go back to all these scientists and all these doctors that I sat on these boards for years, and we would sit back behind the curtain, those of us that didn't believe in Jesus, and we'd make fun of the Christians. We'd give them a diagnosis like, you've only got 3 months to live, or you've got this, horrible disease that you're going to have to cope with." And they'd always say, "Well, we just trust God. We give it to the Lord." And we're like, "You guys are nuts." He goes, "I've got to go back to these same people and defend my Jesus." And I'm telling you, I believe all of this was divine, just so I could have this kind of relationship with this once atheist heart surgeon and be able to share that story with people. And then I had the surgery, of course, in December to fix that. and my blood flow had gotten down to 5%. It was the bridge was actually inside the middle of my heart, and every time my heart would beat, it would squeeze off that blood flow to my widowmaker, and it was down to 5%. So they opened up my heart, extracted that, and put the bridge on top of my heart. Now I'm at 100% blood flow, and I feel amazing, feel better than I have in years. And I really believe all of this was divine. It was of God for me to experience some of that. And even in the hospital, one of my nurses in ICU, she was from India, and she was watching all these people coming into my room, and pastors and friends and people just praying. And one night she was talking to me, and I was sitting there, and she said, "So you're a Christian?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a Christian." She goes, "I've seen all these people pray." And she goes, "And I heard that your family's singing." She goes, "So you've got music?" She said, "Well, I don't understand everything, but I've been praying that God would send me a messenger." And I said, "Well, I believe that's me." And so I just began to share the Lord and what he can do and who he is with her this entire time. And she promised me when I left, she goes, "I'm going to start going to church this Sunday. I want to take my little boy to church." She goes, I believe there's something different about all the people that's come and visited you." And so all these things, if the Lord had to, if he had to put me on my back and for me to go through that, to touch a few people like this, I'm willing. And it was really an amazing experience.
Wow.
Jason,
That's awesome.
It's an awesome story, isn't it, Arthur? Just how God works. Just cool. Go ahead.
That's exact. I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks. Same thing. For weeks, we've been leading up to this, talking about how that's the goal in our life, is to show people Jesus, and that's it. I mean, that's the main goal of our life. And you just did it, man. That's an awesome story. Wow.
Well, I believe. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say I believe that especially in the world. We get this so backwards in the Christian subculture that we live in. We're so good, and Darren, you know, I've talked about this personally. We're so good as Christians. We live in this little bubble, and we spend all of our lives, not being of the world, but we're not in it either. And if you're going to make a difference in the world, you got to be in it. Jesus said, "Be in the world, not of it." And so, but so many times we've isolated ourselves from the world, and the only Bible that the world, they're not out there looking, for a Bible to read or a sermon to listen to. The only Bible that many times that world is ever going to read is the life that we live in front of, Yeah. And I think it's very important.
No doubt. No doubt. Jason, being fully transparent with our listeners out there today, I'm going to throw this out there. There's probably not a week or 2 weeks that don't go by that I don't talk to Todd. As you well know, Todd and I are good friends, and you and I are friends, and I've been out to the farm. So let me say this. You always are busy doing something. I mean, you were busy as can be before Kelly and you bought this farm with this wedding business and other things going on out there. Do you think in some ways also that the Lord allowed you to have this heart surgery because he know that you had to sit there and be still for a little bit and just watch things around you? Do you look at things different now? And do you look at time and place and just do you think different is what I'm asking?
Absolutely. Number one, and I don't say this as a bragging thing, I say this is a character flaw that I have, is I'm a workaholic, and I like to work. And it's not a thing that I feel like I have to. I just like it. And it would be nothing for me to dial in daily 15+ hour days. I just like it.
Yeah.
And so I inherited that. It's just a generational thing. And it's hard for me to even go on vacation. I feel guilty because I don't have anything on my schedule, So I've always had that mindset. And, I came from nothing. And so I was born in a very poor family. We were Eastern Kentucky farmers, and whatever we raised is how we survived. If we had bad crops, we had a bad year. And so it was that, I think that was ingrained in me somehow. But on the other side of that, one of my best friends, and he's a mentor, and he said, "I see a lot of myself in you," and it was Bill Gaither. He said, "You're a workaholic." He goes, "I was too until I was about 65. He goes, and I realized, man, this is a sin, what I'm doing, you know. And he said, I just need to pull back and enjoy life. And he goes, you know what? When you begin to really strategize your time and manage things a little better, you get actually more done with proper rest and proper compartments. Yeah. And so really last year I began to shave a lot of things off of my schedule, and that's a hard mental thing to do, and it's also a hard practical thing to do when you have so many things. I sold a business that I had, I got out of that, and then I had another little upstart business and I sold that, and then I thought, how can I, you know, my passion is gospel music. That's never going to go away. I would do that even if there was no gospel music industry, you know, and I think a lot of gospel singers would say the same thing. But that's my passion. That's the platform that drives everything. And then we wanted to kind of get out in the country to enjoy a little peace and transition the rest of our lives in a place where we could leave our kids and just, you know, and that was, the farm was that. And we never really envisioned buying a business. We just wanted land and property to get away. And we went and met with our business manager, and Kelly drew a little picture and said, hey, I would love to have a house right here and a barn where we could do some concerts and you know, and have people come to us instead of us always going out to them. And so, well, he said, well, I know where this place exists already. You wouldn't have to build it, but it's not for sale. Let's go talk to the owner. So we went and talked to the owner, and he's like, well, you know what? We've been thinking about retiring. Well, he had built a really great wedding business on his farm. Of course, he had Black Angus cattle and things like that. And so we looked at it, and it made perfect sense with what we do and our schedule. And we kept the staff, and we kept everything, and we just kind of transitioned into that. And it enabled me to be able to focus on the passions that I have. And so now I'm still busy, Darren, but I'm not as busy as I used to be. I've cut out a lot of my producing. I've cut out a lot of the producing and stuff like that. And I'm choosing what I want to do as far as I'm going to do about 5 or 6 records a year. I was doing, 20 plus records a year and things like that. And so you're right. It can overcome you so much where you just feel like you can't get off of that merry-go-round, but I'm really trying to set up some new disciplines on this side of the surgery. And it's almost like God gave me this reprieve, 2 months of solitude and nothing but sitting around reading books and whatever. And it's like, okay, here's your reset button. Use it wisely,
Yeah.
Arthur, I think me and you can identify with that. I mean, you're on the road with the Kingdom Heirs. You're handling Kingdom Heirs business. You're working in the studio producing. You're working with the wife at the jewelry store. I mean, it's always something. And that balance is tough. And then one thing you guys have to deal with that I don't have to deal with unless I'm at NRB, and I told you that story the other day, Arthur, is you got to deal with the fans too, because they want some of your time also. Yeah. And then you got to balance that all with family. It's tough.
Well, here's the problem is because we're working, everything we do is kind of in the ministry mode. Where the devil gets us is he makes us busy. Yeah. He makes us too busy and gets us our goals off. We get to just being busy, and then our praying falls, our studying falls off, our witness falls off because we're busy. But we think, okay, well, I'm busy, but I'm doing stuff for the Lord. Well, He don't expect us to work ourselves to death. And that's where we have to be careful and not let the devil mess us up.
You're right. You're exactly. Yep.
The old preacher Vance Havner, I don't know if y'all remember him, but he used to say, he goes, you can be so busy doing the work of the Lord that you forget about the Lord of the work. I remember that very, very well, and that's very
exactly. True. That's a great line.
It is.
That's a great line.
It is.
And I've talked to so many pastors that they've done this for years, and now they've gotten up in years, and their health is failing, or they've missed so much of their family because they have dedicated so much, and it's wonderful that they've done that. But I've talked to so many that have went, if I had to do it over again, I would do this, but I would not. I would take some time, and. Right. And he said, that every one of them have said exactly the same thing. And that's exactly what we do. We get so busy and we think, okay, we got to do this much. We got to work really hard for the Lord. And we do. But I think he doesn't expect us to work 24/7 on it. He expects us to take time with our family. That's important. That's the most important thing other than God is our family. And we have to take, I was guilty of that. I was guilty of that. And it it probably cost me my first marriage because I worked too hard and did too much. I was too involved, and once it's the devil meant that for harm, but God turned it into something good.
That's right.
But in the end, at that time, I look back now and I think I can see where that probably that's a big factor of what caused that.
Wow,
that's good.
It's good stuff. Jason, I'm going to ask you a question. And it kind of, because you're married to arguably the greatest second-generation performer in gospel music history, okay, in Kelly. Her dad's Rex Nelons, great first-generation star. Kelly took her dad, and she stepped it up from there, Dove Award winner, hosted the Dove Awards, been queen of gospel music, all kind of good stuff. Now you got the third generation with Autumn and Amber now out there singing gospel music and working with you. And, a couple of weeks back in country music, the females came out and said, hey, we're not getting the same airplay as the males are. But yet in gospel music, it's such a male-dominated industry because you go back and you think about the Statesmen, you think about the Blackwoods, you think about the Cathedrals, you think about the Gaither Vocal Band. They've always been dominated by men. Do you feel like that women are not getting the total credit they deserve for the impact they're making to gospel music? Because it just seems like to me, outside looking in, that they're in the same position sometimes that these country stars are. And I think to what Vestal's brought to the industry, what Kelly's brought to the industry, what some other ladies that you look back, Sue Dodge, other ladies back in the day have brought to the industry. Do you think they kind of get not the credit they deserve?
Well, that's a great question. I haven't really thought about it, but my immediate answer would be, I think that every industry, not just gospel, every industry, I don't care whether it's in a secular manufacturing world or in the music business or whatever that industry is, every industry has what they would consider gatekeepers. Yeah. And so maybe within a certain realm of gatekeepers at certain generation, maybe the female artists and their contributions, maybe, I have no statistic or I've done no research. This is just an off the hip answer. So maybe they have not been put in the light of their significant contributions. I know what Kelly's contribution is because I have a front row seat of it for the past 25 years. And I see every single night just people line up, they don't want to talk to me. They want to talk to her. And these people said, I've seen you since you were with your daddy. I've seen you on the gospel singing Jubilee, or, it's just that it's the story after story after story. People have grown up watching and hearing Kelly. And even in other genres of music outside of Southern gospel, people just come up. I remember we were working some dates with Point of Grace, and the Point of Grace ladies came up and said, we used to try to be exactly like you and Karen. We would hold our mics like you. We would try to emulate everything y'all did, and it's just, you just take for granted how far the music and the legacy reaches out. I don't think Rex even knew. After Rex passed away, and we began to get all this mail from folks from whether it was George Jones to people even in other countries, in other genres of music, jazz. Musicians from the Ralph Carmichael band, the most obscure thing you could possibly imagine. It was like, had no idea that it was reaching that far. And so I think, yeah, that's probably true. But I'll say now, I had this conversation last night. I had a member of the Opry call me. And I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to be a name dropper, but he's a long-standing member of the Grand Ole Opry, and he's heard our family sing several times. And he was there the first time we performed at the Opry last year. He was one of the main guys that actually gave us the invite. And he said something that he saw a video on social media that I had posted, or somebody had posted on the Nelons social media, and it was my youngest, our youngest Autumn singing "How Great Thou Art." Well, like in a couple days, it had gotten 500,000 organic views, and he said, "I saw that." He goes, "No, I shared it with a bunch of our friends," and I said, "Yeah, I saw the Opry page shared that." He goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I shared it with all them over there," and so. Nowadays, with social media, that gives you an instant global market. There are no more gatekeepers. If somebody's holding you back, they're not holding you back. You know, it's like that's your own problem. Your audience is the world if you want to utilize it the right way. And so, all that to be said, anybody, any artist with any song, you can have a global audience today if you choose to understand that world and how we can connect with them through the power of the internet. And that's it. You know, to me, that it's like it has really made the world put it right at your footstool, you know. And so it's pretty amazing opportunities, honestly.
Yeah, it is. You know, I would have said, well, you know, in the past, it's always been, I think it's for women, it has been a difficult road for them. And don't get me wrong, it's not talent-wise. It's just there's very few opportunities. There's very few mixed groups unless you're a family group, unless you're on your own family. And most of them that start young, then they get married, then they're expected, their life is expected to change.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them, you know, are expected not to follow through with that unless they marry into a family that, you know, continues to sing. It's tough. It's like my oldest sister, you know, people say, you know, boy, you're a great singer. My sister can sing the stars out of the sky, but she came along at, you know, she's older than I am. And when she was growing up, she was at the time, there was only 2 mixed groups. You know, there was no opportunity for her to sing, you know, other than in church or with family. And then when she got older and you know, started a career in nursing and teaching, you know, other than church, you know, her ministry as far as singing was, it was very limited. And so I see that. Now, I agree with you now. It's like the world is your footstool. If you want to get out there. It is with social media, man. It opens up everything. Yeah,
and you look at the ladies out there now that you know, Amber and Autumn's 2 of them doing a great job.
Oh man!
I mean, Jason, I've often said this, and you know, as we talk, because we're all gospel music historians and we all love the business. Think about this: had Kim Hopper not been expected to join the Hoppers, and Tony wouldn't have passed away so early, and Tim wouldn't have got sick, where would the Greens be at today with the sound that they had when they were 20 years old? Think about that.
Right.
Think about that for an instant.
Right.
But because the way the industry was, it was just expected. It was just expected. I'll ask you this then, Jason, because you followed a different route. You joined the Nelons, okay? You didn't join the Clarks, okay? From a male.
Now, do you know who my first group was that I traveled with, that I started traveling with?
Singing Americans, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, I was born and raised on quartet music.
Yeah.
And I always envisioned myself being a bass playing, baritone singer for a quartet. I mean, that was. I mean, my child from the moment I could walk, And that was my lifelong pursuit. I was going to play bass and sing baritone for a male quartet. I had no idea where I would end up, but that was always the pursuit, So that's pretty ironic how things turned out. But yeah,
That's awesome.
Ego-wise, was it hard to play second fiddle to the ladies? Because in the industry, everybody else is up front. I mean, that's not your personality, but I mean, was you eating that up inside? Say, man, they don't know who Jason Clark is, but they know who the Nelons is.
No.
And by the way, that's Kelly Clark, not Kelly Nealon. You know what I'm saying? Because I even made a mistake. You know that. I mean, we're friends and we talk on an ongoing basis. And I call her Kelly Nealon more than I call her Kelly Clark. Okay.
Well, we had somebody, and that's just not my makeup. It's not even in, and you got to have the right kind of. And God knew this, I think. You got to have the right kind of demeanor to be married to someone like Kelly, and so it doesn't even factor into just the way I'm wired, But even the other night, we was on the cruise, and somebody that was not a part of our group, they recognized us, and it's like, hey, and they haven't seen the Nelons for 30-something years. And they said, I told my wife that was Kelly Nealon Thompson. I said, yeah, that's a long time ago, And so that kind of stuff, you just you got to be wired the right way. And it doesn't factor in. Now, what makes me really proud is I'm a behind the scenes guy. I'm the studio guy.
Yeah.
I develop the motor. I develop the brand. I do a lot of that stuff. I handle the business and the way things are shaped musically. And when something wins, like whether it's an arrangement or whether it's an idea like the Americana tour that we did last year, and we had 35 sold out shows in secular venues. Yeah. And that was unbelievable for us. And when stuff like that wins, that's what really makes me get up in the morning, because I know that I was, at the forefront of driving that kind of stuff. Now, honestly, they got world-class talent,
Yeah. That's exactly what I see that's exactly what I see when I see you, is your pride in because like I said, you're behind the guy, you're the arranger, you're the producer, you're the coordinator, that pride in what your family's doing. That's what I see. It's awesome. It's incredible.
Yeah, it gets me up in the morning. That's what I love. I love, even not just with my family, I work a lot with other artists and other. I'm working on some old Brumley catalog stuff now for RFD TV, and I produced Michael English's last record. I'm doing 2 records for Linda Randall right now, and I've done some movie soundtracks. I want to tell you that when these artists trust me with their gift, or whether a project trusts me with this story or whatever, I'm all in, and and I want them to win in every facet. And so when they win, and if my name is, and nowadays, because music gets released digitally and you don't have the liner notes like you used to, you're not even, spoken about as a producer or arranger, but it's cool. If they're winning, I love it, and that's what gets me up in the morning.
Last question I'll throw out there on the women thing, and I didn't plan these out at all, didn't write them down at all. They just hit me as we go, because this is something Arthur don't have to face, because Arthur's got 2 boys, okay? Both of us are married to beautiful women. You've got 2 beautiful daughters, okay? Jason, we're men. What do you do when you're on the road, you're singing, you're behind the product table, and the intentions in the eyes of the guy across the table isn't what they need to be? What goes through Jason's mind at that point? Because I don't know that I could be in your spot, and that's why the Lord didn't choose me to be in your spot, okay? But it's had to happen, and it's got to make you feel uncomfortable from time to time. What do you do?
Well, I mean, there's some things that you have to set up parameters, and unfortunately, you have to set up layers of protection. Yeah. And you can't be naive, because not everybody has the best of intentions. And so even in the world of Christian music, we have to make sure that our families are safe, and so I would never, put stories out there, but there's been times when we've had to take parameters with a local promoter and saying, hey, okay, there's some, we've received some really uncomfortable emails or whatever, and these people plan on coming to the show or whatever, and so we just want to make sure that, and so whether it be some security or whatever, and that happens, I think, a lot more nowadays because of social media, and people have so much access, and they know your every move, and so I think you just have to be smart and Southern Gospel. And what I love about Southern Gospel is that there's not a big layer between us and our fan base. I like that. I want to be out there. We were at Fort Myers Assembly of God Sunday night. There was 1,800 people there. We were at the church 2 hours after the concert left, speaking with as many people that wanted to stay. And I love that part about what we do in Southern Gospel, that the artists are so connected to the fan base. And that's why I think you see Southern Gospel artists' careers are much longer than other genres of music. Because when you have a connection with a fan from 1977, when the Rex Nelons Singers first started, they're still with us 3 generations later,
Right.
And that's hard to see in other genres, but because we build those emotional connections. But in spite of all that, there's always someone that you have to just be smart, and you have to protect yourself and protect your families. And so I think you just got to be smart and have accountability. We've trained with, back in the day, we were very fortunate to train with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, because they were so exposed, and they would travel so much and have, this throngs of people, and they basically would teach us concepts of accountability and concepts of layered protection without losing that intimate connection with your fan base.
Wow.
And so some of those principles I still use to this day when we're putting events together, and we make sure we really communicate with our local venues that are hosting this. This is how. Here's some steps that's going to make this successful for everybody, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and for those of you that say, Darren, why'd you ask that kind of question? It's the truth. And a lot of these local, a lot of our regional groups and a lot of our weekend travelers and part-timers need to understand this. You got to protect your family in the world we live in. I mean, I'm sure it's happened to y'all at Dollywood, Arthur, where you get somebody that's a little out of hand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Jason's correct. It's awesome.
So, Jason, what's going on with the Nelons right now, man? I know you just got over this heart surgery. You're back on the bus. What should we expect from the Nelons in the next 6, 12 months? Your oldest daughter's just gotten married, so that's changed the group, I'm assuming, somewhat from anytime you add an additional family member, life changes. So you've got that. We know Kelly's dogs are always a big part of the travel schedule. That's changing lives. And then you've got Cal. So tell us what's going on with the Nelons, man.
Well, on the personal side, Amber did get married. Her husband's name's Nathan Kistler, and he's also a fantastic singer. And he filled in for me my entire time that I was out. And and he did a fantastic job. They didn't miss a beat without me being there. And so, and he still travels with us about 2 weekends a month. When he's not with us, he's the director of a nonprofit organization in Washington, D.C. called Hope to the Hill. And so he's there about 2 weeks when Congress is in session. And then the 2 weeks that they're not in session, he's with us. And he'll sing a couple songs a night, but he filled in for me, and he plays guitar and several instruments. So he was able to really fill every role musically in my absence, and that was great. And so that's an awesome thing. And then on the home front, our barn. We just had our first concert at our barn Valentine's Day night, and it was a dinner show, and it was sold out. We had people from 8 states that came, and we did a dinner show. That was so cool. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that this summer and fall. And I'm sitting here looking at my cows. They seem to be doing okay today. And then on the music side, we finished a record last October that was produced by Wayne Hahn and myself. And we just held it back because we didn't know when and how to release it. We feel like it's probably, we've let a lot of folks listen to it. We feel like it could be the best commercial record that we've made in decades. And so we're really, really proud of the music. It's the first full-length gospel record that we've put out in almost 4 years, because we did a couple Americana things and the Christmas thing. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to release it here, probably this summer. We're talking about all that right now. So it's done and ready to go. And so that's pretty much it. And then we host our annual trip to Washington, D.C. in November. It's called Christians in the Capitol. Last year we did Christmas in the Capitol, and it was sold out. And so we're going to take a bunch of people to Washington, D.C., and we do an incredible trip there. And then we do a concert at the Ford Theater. That's a pretty iconic place where Lincoln was assassinated. So a lot of stuff going on, but man, we're having a great time, and love for people to just kind of follow along the journey any way they can.
Where can they find you on the internet and all that kind of good stuff? Give yourself one of them record pushes there at the end.
Yeah, the main thing is our website, thenelons.com. And of course, we're, from there they can find our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. So thenelons.com.
Man, I could sit here and ask you questions all day. Arthur, what you got?
Man, I'm so proud of you, buddy. Love your family. Love what you're doing. Love how God's using you. And we just really, really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you as well, Arthur, and you guys are fantastic. And one of your buddies and mine, Lauren, is a little bit of gospel music trivia. Lauren, my dad, and Greg Bentley, we had a quartet that did one concert together, and that was about all we could do. But no, Lauren got a job. We had rehearsed and actually even recorded music tracks. Was going to make a record. We did one concert one weekend, and this was after the Singing Americans had disbanded, and we did a weekend in Kentucky or something like that. And then Lauren got a job with the Wilburns. Greg got a job with Squire Parsons, and my dad got a really big promotion with Motion Industries, and then I got a job at the Nelons. So we lasted one weekend.
Was it a paid gig or a love offer?
I think it was a homecoming, so it was a paid gig. Yeah.
Man, look at there. Look at there. You made money and you got out on top. That's so
exactly
good.
Not too bad.
That's awesome.
What was the name of the group?
I think, we were unofficially called the Common Ground Quartet. I think it was Common Ground Quartet, yeah.
But there's no black and whites out there of the Common Ground Quartet that we can give Jeff Turner for his gospel music and pictures Facebook site.
There is a picture. I've seen a picture floating around. I think Greg Bentley had a picture. Yeah, I saw a picture floating.
That's hilarious.
Awesome.
Real quick before we get out of here, got a couple things. All righty, this is the speed round. Now I know you've always wanted to do one of these speed rounds, Jason. So you ready?
I'm ready. I think.
Arthur, get your speed round questions ready. All righty, Arthur. All righty. What's your favorite song, Jason?
Favorite song has to be Through It All.
Through It All. If we got in your truck today or your car, either one, and we hit the music, what's the preset set on?
I don't listen to music in my car or truck, unfortunately. I'm a solitude guy. That's the truth.
Really?
Love it.
There you go. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Who's your favorite talk show host?
My favorite talk show host has always been Rush Limbaugh.
Good choice. Arthur, what you got?
What's your favorite singer?
Favorite singer, I would say male would be Michael English, and female Kelly Nealon. Cool. And I think those are good choices. Right
Better
there.
be.
Right.
Better.
But
be.
I will say this. Nobody, and I'm not just saying this because he was my granddad, and nobody outside of Eastern Kentucky heard him sing. But when my Papaw Clark would sing, and he would get up there at 90 years old and strum a guitar and sing some of those old songs, nothing really touched me in the deepest part of my heart like whatever he had is what I long for. But that was pretty special,
Last question. is Todd Nealon the most overrated bass player of all time?
Well, that's a great question, but it's not a fair question because you actually have to be a bass player to be rated in any capacity. And so I don't know that we could even put him. Here's a great story about Todd's bass playing. Okay.
Yeah.
So when Rex was going to bring him on, to play bass, he didn't really know how to play at the time, and so Kelly, she was taking piano lessons, and so Kelly was going to teach him how to play the bass. So she went and made all these stickers and put the notes all the way up his neck so he could learn the notes on the neck. But what she did, she didn't realize that their piano was a half a step out of tune. So she had all the notes a half a step wrong. And so he learned everything a half a step off. And I don't think he's ever gotten it right since then.
I don't think you're right. And just because he sings thanks, he thinks he's a superstar,
I know. I try to tell him, I said, man, have you listened to the last 3 courses of Thanks? I mean, it takes it up a notch there, I mean, it's like.
That's so awesome.
Arthur, if you notice, we're throwing some, for those of you out there listening, we're throwing some personal jabs out there, okay? And Todd and I are good friends, and he's Jason's father-in-law. So we can do that. What's your favorite? Arthur, while we're at this, what's your favorite Todd Nealon story that you could throw out there?
Oh man, we worked together a lot. Because we were same agency, so we worked a lot. But gosh, we had to great, and they had a good band though. That was a lot of fun.
That's funny. Jason, we appreciate your time, my friend. Well, thank you for joining us on SGNP. We'll be in touch, buddy, and tell Kelly we're going to get her on here before long. All righty?
Hey, I had a great time, guys. Great job. Thank you.
SGNP is brought to you by Toccoa Falls College in Toccoa Falls, Georgia. For more information on TFC, call 706-886-7299 or visit them online at tfc.edu. That's tfc.edu. Since 1907, TFC, glorifying God through seeking and developing leaders who will impact the world for Jesus Christ.
The day, but I know that I'll be leaving when it calls his church away. Well, I'm going home to Jesus in the twinkling of an eye, and I'll make my reservation for a mansion in the sky. I may not know the moment, or I may not know the day, but I know that I'll be leaving when he calls his church away. Now I'm listening for the trumpet to sound most any time. And the crown of life that's waiting, thank God will soon be mine. Yes, I got my invitation from a place called Calvary. By the precious blood of Jesus, the trip's been paid for me. Yes, I'm going home with Jesus in the twinkling of an eye. And I made my reservation for a mansion in the sky. I may not know the moment, or I may not know the day, but I know that I'll be leaving when they call this church away. The captain of the vessel is calling, get on board.
Jason's people don't realize, and I never really realized until I dug into it, because I look at the Nelons a little bit different than every other group. The Nelons to me are just Todd and Kelly and folks that I've known all these years because they're right here in this area. Todd and I coached baseball together. They're just friends to me. They're not gospel singers, but yet they are gospel singers. You know what I'm saying? They're legendary gospel group. The Nelons are, and
they are.
And Jason does so much behind the scenes of keeping that glue together that people don't ever see. You know?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
What I love about them is that they're doing stuff that nobody else is doing.
Yeah.
And reaching folks that nobody else is reaching. It's incredible. I just love what they do, man. It's incredible. It really is.
And Kelly is a future Hall of Fame member, whether she gets in this year, next year, the following year, or the next 5 years. She's a guaranteed Hall of Fame member. If she ain't, then they need to just close the thing down. And I'm not saying that because she's my friend. It's the truth.
Part of the criteria is to be in the Hall of Fame. It's not just talent; it's what you've done for the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be known right this second exactly what all they're doing to expand our industry, but it's coming. Yeah. It's coming. People are fixing to find out what they're doing to grow this music, and that's what I love, and that's it's incredible.
And we didn't even get into the conversation, and we could have done a whole hour on Amber with American Idol and why she didn't go on with that. I mean, that's a story amongst itself that we need to do. We need to do it with Amber one day is what we need to do, and talk to
that'd
her.
Be great.
Talk to her about that.
And their TV stuff too. I mean, man.
Yeah.
That's great. It's great. Lord's using them. I love it.
Great family, and old Todd just sits at home, collects check while they out working. Anyway, oh man, it's been fun, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you so much again. And hold the line. I got to tell you something before we get off here, but we'll close this out. Arthur, what's wrong with living right anyway?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. I appreciate it. You're listening to SGNP.
If you've enjoyed today's podcast here on WLJA and would like to hear more, we urge you to download our weekly podcast and subscribe to Southern Gospel News Podcast from whatever source you receive podcasts, or visit us online at southerngospelnewspodcast.com. For daily fun and games, connect with SGNP on Facebook at Southern Gospel News Podcast or Twitter at SGNP Podcast. And don't forget, for the best in gospel music, listen to North Georgia's local station, WLJA, on your radio, internet, or anywhere around the world with your Alexa or Google Home device. Southern Gospel News Podcast is produced by BG Ad Group, a leader in faith-based podcasts. All rights reserved.